Why does your child ignore you? It's honestly, it can just be one of the most frustrating things. I remember it so well, particularly when I was a childminder and a foster carer. And sometimes I would have, in the holidays, sometimes I'd have 6 to 8 children I'd be caring for, and we'd be trying to get ready to go down the park or whatever, and just trying to get everyone to listen, to get their stuff. Have you got your drink? Can you get your shoes on? Never mind, raising my own child. It's really tough. It's really tough when we feel that we keep saying things, or we keep asking children to help us with the same thing. So can you please remember to take your plates out? You need to take your plates out. Don't forget to brush your teeth. And they just seem to completely ignore us. And, that can be very, well, I think 2 things can happen. Number one, it can trigger us to a point of rage where we get very angry and then maybe we start to shout. Or it can just feel really miserable and depressing and monotonous. And either are not great states to be in. Let's be clear. and I guess it can just get to the point where you think, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Or maybe what's wrong with my child or my children, that they just don't seem to hear a damn thing I say, and they sure don't respond to it. So here's just a couple of things to think about. Number one is, obviously there's always we need to get children's hearing checked if we really feel that there might be a mechanical problem. But that aside, so number one is, it's a very unhelpful fact that so much of what we have to say and do as parents is pretty boring. It's, it is the kind of mundane stuff of life, isn't it? So you need to take your plates out. Please, can you take your plates out? Could you bring your plates down from the bedroom? Could you, it's time to go to bed now. So, okay, so we need to, it's not exciting stuff. So as you can imagine, children, not even when they're very young, they just zone out. They zone out. So that's number one. Number two is often the annoyance and energy and irritation we put behind the request. So if children are used to whatever they're being asked to do, so you need to go and brush your teeth, quite quickly escalating into us being irritated and frustrated with them, then that their system will learn it really quickly. Oh, you need to go and brush your teeth will already make them go a bit, panic, because the angry, shouty bit is coming soon. So their system, you would think, what we like to think is, but surely they know, they know I'm going to get upset with them, so it's in their best interest to get up those stairs and brush their teeth. But in fact, the opposite happens, is that because we have got annoyed with them, their survival system, when we start to say the phrase, puts them into meerkat, into panicky, ooh. And actually when you're in that state, you cannot hear. Everything shuts down because you're in a state of panic now. So I find that quite fascinating, actually, that, I think generally parents, we don't know this stuff. So those are 2 really, really important things to say. It's not your fault that you have to keep saying things that are boring, but as happens to any of us, we all kind of shut down when we know what's coming next from the adults around us. So children's systems just do this automatically, and also children really do live in their own world so much of the time. So sometimes it takes 3 or 4 little inroads to try and bring them out so that they can genuinely hear what you're saying. So that's number one. Number two is, if there is a kind of habitual request, I'm losing it now, I'm getting angry, then their system has learned that. So when you start it off, you flick them into fight, flight. And then number 3 is a really, it's a big one, but it's so important that you know this stuff. So think about this in an adult relationship. If you didn't spend much time with your partner, your other half, or your friend, you really didn't. You kind of just left them to get on with stuff mostly. And then you only really start talking to them and connecting with them when you want them to do something for you. So how would you think that makes them feel? Pretty much you're not interested in most of what I'm doing and saying, but when you need me to do something for you, because although we know that brushing teeth is actually for the child, it doesn't feel like that for a child. I mean, brushing your teeth is literally one of the most boring things on the planet. As a fully grown adult, I hate brushing. I mean, I do it, but I hate it. All those things, they're so boring. I even hate going to bed. I find going to bed boring. I would like someone to just carry me and do all these things and place me in my bed. So, it's not your fault that these things are boring, but they really are boring. So if we are not nurturing the relationship with our children, so we're not, spending as much time as we can, and we're not interested in other things that they're doing in daily life, and the only time they really get our full connection, because that's it, it's like no Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, full Wi-Fi, is when we need them to do something, then you would think that will be good, or now they have this full connection, but it kind of feels manipulative. It doesn't feel authentic. And although they can't think this through, it's just how it feels. It's like, oh, no interest to me at all. Suddenly you're of interest to me because now I need you to do this. So it really is about slowing life down and being more fully present in your children's lives, which is in no means easy. I never would pretend that any of these things are easy, but your child will just sense, if you're generally, as much as is humanly possible, especially when you have 3 or 4 children, but you show some interest in whatever they're just doing in daily life. If they're playing with their dinosaurs, then just have a chat with them about their dinosaurs and find out about them. And even if you get the names wrong, it doesn't matter. And when they're older, if they are, I don't know, building something, or they're playing some kind of game online, and I mean, my son, I'm sure I used to drive him nuts by interrupting him and going and chatting and saying, oh, tell me about this, and who's that character there, and well, why are they doing that? And I'm sure, but I was still respectfully going into his world, and by my presence showing that I was validating what he was doing, I was interested, I was just showing appreciation for what he happens to be into right now. So by doing that, you form this kind of more authentic, connecting relationship with your children, which again, I mean, it's not magic wand stuff, because they don't want to do these boring things, but modeling them, and actually having fun with it. If there are all these boring things we have to do in life, then have fun with it. And make it into a game, or make it into something silly. If you want them to take the plates out to the kitchen, wouldn't that be lovely? Then, you might have to pick up a plate and say, oh, sorry, what's that plate? Oh, okay, you've had enough of being on the table and you would love to go to the kitchen. Okay, what about you, plate? And then pretending you're talking to the plates. If your children are young enough, even actually with older ones, I mean, I used to do this stuff with my son, and he knew I was just being silly, and he knew that, oh God, she just wants to take the flipping plate out. But we'd laugh about it rather than it became a grumpy, miserable, you haven't brought your plate out again. Or I would always try to find, if I could, and I'm sure I definitely know I didn't do it perfectly, but I would just think, oh, how can I kind of turn this into something a bit light-hearted and Because, you know, human beings are all wired to be playful. Even if we haven't experienced it a lot as children, it is our natural state, is playfulness and curiosity. So if we need children to help us out or learn how to do things, and it's not unreasonable for people who all live together to take their stuff into the kitchen or whatever it is, if it's brushing your teeth, you're just going to have to find funnies to do this. You know, if it was an older child who was going through a phase of not brushing their teeth, and most of them do, then you could do something like get some funny post-its and just stick one on the toothbrush saying, you know, I'm very excited for the day when I get to meet your teeth again, or something not too sarcastic, but something silly, just silly. Because it's flipping hard, you know, having to do this stuff over and over again, especially if you've got several children. I don't think we should ever kid ourselves that it's not hard. So if it's going to be hard every day, this stuff is going to be there every day. This stuff is going to be there every day. They are going to need to, you know, put their shoes on, brush their teeth, bring their plates out to the kitchen. I can't think of all the other, there's just so many things, aren't there? So if you can take a breath and think, okay, do I want to go through my children's childhoods, going on and on and on, disliking them, getting upset with them, getting frustrated with them, feeling sorry for myself, and I used to do this, feeling nobody's helping me, what about me, I'm the one that always has to do all the clearing up, and then I would catch myself, and it's such a horrible energy state to get yourself into. You're only going to make yourself more miserable, and whatever it is still going to need doing. You'll just be in a really miserable state when you're doing it. Whereas, honestly and truly, as soon as I realised, as often as I humanly can, use gentle humour. Even if the humour is completely about yourself, or, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And, you know, as somebody who's well on the other side of raising a human being, you know, my son and I, we still share this amazing sense of humour. And it gets you through the really tough times. It honestly does. The worst of worst times, when that boy was suffering terribly in hospital, going through things I don't think I could have survived, we would use our humour. We would just find something funny in it, ridiculous in it. So really think about this, okay? Children do not want to do these boring things. That doesn't make them children who are being unhelpful, unkind, willful, not listening, rude, wanting you to suffer and have to do everything. That's just not how they roll, children. They roll in and out of one emotion to another. They become completely absorbed in what they're doing. And most importantly, they utterly, crazily love you. So they don't get up in the morning, even though it probably feels like it, to make you suffer in any way or make your life miserable. They just don't. They get up in the morning to connect with you, love you, share a space with you, share an energy with you. That's what they get up to do. And you know, when we get into this negativity and believing, oh, my children never help me, then they never bring their plates out, they never do this, they never do that. Well, as I say to many of my clients I coach, if you believe it, then every day you will get to be miserably right, because you're creating the belief, therefore you're creating the energy which your children will just step into again and again. Whereas if you decide, I am going to really believe, like with every bit of me, that my children really do want to help me, then who knows, they may just start doing it. So try and be kind to yourself. Check in with yourself sometimes and just think, oh yes, this is really boring. This is really boring. And feel free to laugh about the fact that it's so boring, because you know, it is. And then come back to really connect with the child in front of you. They're not doing this on purpose. They do want to help you out, but at the moment you've just got into a bit of a negative spiral with it. So I hope that that's really helpful. I hope that it lets you think about these amazing human beings you are raising in a different way, and also your very amazing self, and you know how you are kind of trapped in having to often do things that are not very exciting, but it's tough, but it's all part of being in these children's lives. And you know, once they've grown up, and it's easy for me to say, but honestly you wish you had it back. You really truly 1,000,000% do. So remember to have fun with this stuff. Remember there are going to be times when you hear yourself droning on, and that most importantly your children love and adore you, and when they can, they will do exactly what you need them to, but maybe not right away.